When we think about the richest people in the world, we usually picture massive companies and a CEO sitting in a fancy office in some giant skyscraper, controlling everything. But the billionaires we see today, are they really the richest people in history? Or were there people in the past who were even wealthier? Up until 7 or 8 years ago, we always heard that Bill Gates was the richest person in the world. Even now, he's definitely still among the ultra-wealthy. With his company, Microsoft, he currently has a net worth of $124 billion. But recently, new companies have popped up that have actually surpassed Microsoft. For instance, if you've ever bought anything online, you've probably contributed to his wealth. Jeff Bezos. He is currently the richest person in the world right now. He has a net worth of $180 billion. And that number is literally increasing by the hour. Of course, Jeff Bezos is in a fierce rivalry with Elon Musk for that #1 spot. Elon Musk, with Tesla and his other ventures, has a net worth of over $150 billion. Just a while ago, for a brief period, he actually overtook Bezos and became the richest man in the world. But then Bezos quickly reclaimed his title. This man is the owner of Louis Vuitton, and there are many other massive companies out there that would take forever to name. Bernard Arnault, for example, has a net worth of $150 billion. Now, let's look at why the wealth of these billionaires fluctuates so much. It's simply because most of their wealth is tied up in the stock market. Their net worth is constantly going up and down. That's why sometimes Elon Musk surpasses Jeff Bezos, and other times he falls behind. All these billionaires we mentioned, along with Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, are the only people in the world who have a net worth of over $100 billion. Of course, these are just the officially registered billionaires. There are definitely illegal investors and shadowy figures out there who might have even more money, but nobody really knows because there are no official records. But as we promised, we are here to explore the wealthiest people throughout all of history. When we look back, we see that the billionaires of the past were vastly wealthier than the billionaires of today. The ancient wealthy elite were mostly the heads of various empires, and the bulk of their wealth usually consisted of gold and precious jewels. Let's travel back in time and see what we can find. We have to talk about Henry Ford. Thanks to his innovations, he was one of the wealthiest people of his era. He was the first person to introduce the assembly line to automobile manufacturing, which drastically brought down the price of cars. He believed that every single person should be able to afford a car. If we convert Henry Ford's wealth to today's currency, it would be a staggering $200 billion. That means all the modern billionaires would have to step aside for him. During Henry Ford's time, there was another incredibly wealthy man living on the other side of the world. Osman Ali Khan. He wasn't a businessman or an industrialist like Ford. He was the ruler of British India. Back then, India had an abundance of diamonds, and Osman Ali Khan owned the largest collection of diamonds in the world. During his reign, anyone in the world who wanted a diamond had to buy it from this man. If we calculate Osman Ali Khan's wealth in today's money, it was around $210 billion. All right, let's head back to America. The Industrial Revolution had just happened, and everyone wanted to get rich through industry. One of those people was Andrew Carnegie. This man opened the first and largest steel manufacturing company in the world. What he did was incredibly important because his steel literally built the modern world. Look at all these massive skyscrapers. They couldn't have been built without steel. Look at this bridge. Impossible without steel. The railways that stretched across the globe. If there was no steel, they wouldn't exist. So, Mr. Carnegie hit the absolute jackpot. His wealth converted to today's money was $310 billion. So at this point, Henry Ford would have had to honk his horn and move out of the way for him. Before his death, Carnegie did something very interesting. He donated $5 billion of his wealth to a foundation dedicated to helping the poor. Now, moving on from diamonds, steel, trade, and cars, let's talk about oil. You need to know John D. Rockefeller. This man controlled 90% of America's oil. And this was during a time when electricity wasn't widespread, so everyone completely depended on kerosene for their lamps, for cooking, for light, and for heat. His wealth in today's money was over $400 billion. He had so much control over the American oil market that the US government's anti-monopoly laws finally stepped in. They said, it's illegal for the lifeblood of the entire nation to be in the hands of one single company. They forced his massive corporation to split into 34 different companies. He was incredibly rich, wasn't he? But he still doesn't even come close to the wealthiest people in history. The Roman Empire in the early AD years, meaning right after the birth of Christ, was in its wealthiest era. Augustus, the Roman emperor at the time, had complete control over all of Europe. He collected taxes from absolutely everyone. Augustus's wealth reached a mind-blowing $4 trillion. You might say that this money wasn't technically his, it belonged to the people. But we are looking at the individuals who had the most wealth officially registered under their name in history. And Augustus of Rome is one of them. Before the Europeans set foot in Africa, and anyone could take a piece for themselves, Africa was filled with its own diverse empires. One of the most powerful empires in Africa was the Mali Empire, and Mansa Musa, in the 13th century, was the emperor of Mali. The largest gold mine in the world at that time was located right within his empire. Mansa Musa was so wealthy that he could literally manipulate the entire global economy of his time. He was a Muslim and believed he needed to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. He set off on a caravan, and 70,000 people walked alongside him on his journey to Mecca. This man loaded up every single cart, wheel, and carriage he could find with solid gold. They estimate he took about 10 tons of gold with him. His vow was that as he traveled to Mecca, he would give away gold to every town he passed through so they could build mosques. He said, "With my wealth, a new mosque must be opened every single Friday." Even though he didn't know much about economics, by distributing those 10 tons of gold among the people, he caused the price of gold worldwide to completely crash. But despite that, he still held the largest reserve of gold in the world. They say Mansa Musa's wealth was far greater than that of the Roman Emperor Augustus, and in today's money, his net worth was well over $4 trillion. Mansa Musa was truly wealthy. A multi-trillionaire, Mansa Musa is currently considered the richest person in recorded history. Of course, there might have been governments in the past that held more wealth, but they were collectives, like the Achaemenid Empire. The wealth wasn't in the hands of one single person. In any case, Mansa Musa's wealth is staggeringly huge. If you've seen the videos about the largest galaxies in the universe that we've covered previously, you'd know that counting from 1 to 1 trillion takes an unbelievable amount of time. So just imagine what $4 trillion really means